10, and you might include even 11 in that. When I mean trough, meaning it just stayed low and no one knew when it was going to return. Also in 08, as an example, or that period of time, was the only time in US history where the real estate market caused the recession/depression. So when you start looking at today's marketplace, you start saying, okay, well, what about the inflation? What about what's going on? How is it impacting me? And, in simple terms, right? I mean, you're seeing gas prices that are almost triple. You see food prices that are almost double. You see all sorts of things that are increasing in price. And so the rise of course, the interest rates, not only from the feds, but of course impacting the bond market, impacting the real estate market. I'm not going to get into the depth of how rates rise and fall, but we know that rates are going up. The expectation is, I remember even the beginning of the year, I said, hey, rates will probably finish out somewhere between 7 and 8%. And people thought, well, that's not even possible. And yet it's been the fastest rate rise ever in the last 35 years. It has been the highest rate increase, the speed in which it went up, the fastest it's ever gone up in 35 years. And the last time essentially it went back up, was going up that high, of course, was back in the 90s, or sorry, the 80s. 30, I'm doing my math wrong, but 35 years ago. Someone do the math, whatever year that was, right? So, there's a lot of interesting things. We have what's called stagflation. You say, well, what is that? If you're a big economist and love studying that stuff, stagflation's a unique thing. The last time that stagflation occurred was back in the Jimmy Carter days. And back when that happened, what it was this, and that was that prices continued to rise, spending started to be curved, but employment remained strong. And it really is interesting because there's still a massive employment shortage, or meaning that there's not enough employees in relationship to the jobs that are here, wherever you are in the country. And you see that still today, like, every restaurant you go into, please be patient with us, we're understaffed. It doesn't matter where you go, but there is a decline in regards to, or the amount of people who are working, there's a shortage for the amount of people to fulfill those jobs. And that's a really rare thing. It's happened very few times in US history. And so you start looking like, okay, well, what is this? Is it the Putin tax? Is it as you see Biden talking about, is it the war in Ukraine? Is it the fact that, the pipeline was closed? Is it you can give me every different reason, but almost all the reasons don't matter. The only thing that can really ultimately matter is, okay, how do you respond to that? So if I look at two distinct things in regards to the impact of great leadership, in regards to you personally as an agent running either your own business, or running a team, or doing your business just however you choose to do it, there's two distinct things that you should pay attention to. And here's two that some of you I see taking notes, and encourage you to pick up your phone, or we're going to just talk about a few things. The first thing is you have to anticipate. And the thing that you have to recognize, that in great leadership, right, even if you had a general out there on the battlefield, what you would see is that the greatest generals are the ones who anticipated. One of the things that I love, I remember meeting him over at the Four Seasons in Westlake, shook his hand, was Wayne Gretzky. Wayne, is one of his most famous quotes is, the reason that he became so successful wasn't because he went and where he saw the puck, meaning when he was playing hockey, he didn't just go to where the puck was, he anticipated where the puck was going to be. And that's what made him so great. He talked about his anticipation to going to where he knew the puck was going to be. Well, it's the same thing in business. It's all about anticipation. What are you anticipating to have happen? Not only in your own business, not only in your own families, but of course for us, right, as a group, we have to say, okay, what are we going to anticipate in relationship to the business? And then the second component of that is that if you start to anticipate, you have to sit there and say, okay, well, what am I going to, if I anticipate that these are some of the changes and things are going to happen in the marketplace or into my own business, okay, now how do I have to innovate? So the two words I want you to really pay close attention to is, am I anticipating what's going to be happening? And number two, if I anticipate what I believe is going to happen, do I have enough innovation? Can I invent a better path to how I run my business? Now, let's just give a reality check. 13 straight years of increase in home values, one of the longest, if not the longest, rise in real estate values in the history of the U.S. for the length of time that it has gone on. Now that's pretty impressive. So what that means is that anybody who's been in this business less than 13 years, or less than 13 years, has never really ever seen a decline. They've never even really experienced. I've had a number of agents. I had one 2 weeks ago that came into my office in Salt Lake City, and they said, "Hey, can you help me?" And I said, "Well, sure, no problem. What do you need?" And might add to you that this was a team leader who had 8 people on his team, selling the year before nearly 200 homes with his team. And he sat down with me privately and said, "I have actually never had to get a price reduction. Can you help me?" And that's a fact.
That's true. I've been doing that too.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
And some of you, in fairness, I know it because I can see your age, have never, unless you were selling real estate at 12 or 13, have never had to deal with a price reduction. And it's not a criticism. It's not even to be mean. I'm just telling you that there are things that you will have to innovate within yourself, just like maybe a price reduction at times, right? Pricing a property properly. Even if you mispriced it, eventually the market caught up to it, so you still look like a hero. So as you were in the markets in the last 13 years, because the prices will eventually happen. Now the question is will the pricing go down? People always ask me that, and I do believe it will go down in the upper end. First-time home buyers, I don't believe that it will probably change much. You still even see multiple offer situations on first-time home buyers. Granted, wherever you are in this country, depends on what you consider a first-time home buyer and the pricing of that. I mean, like, it's all relative. But here you're talking anywhere between $400 to $650. It seems to be the case, whether it's from the condos to a single-family home. And in Salt Lake City, it's give or take around $400,000. But the reality is there probably will not be much of an impact because there's such a drive for business to be happening. So we're going to come back to the anticipation and the innovation, but I just want to share a quick example, a little story of just my world back in 4, somewhere in there. How about that? 1993 or 4. I remember I had just gotten my license. How many of you are just less than a year in this business now? There's a handful of you. And I remember my first time when this happened, and it happened a number of times after that, and it was this. Rates at that time back in the early 90s were about 9.5%. I remember everybody was really excited because they had just come down under 10%. I distinctly remember it. And I remember that when they were 9.5%, I was out walking my dog. And Jennifer and I, we were fairly newly married. We were living in a basement apartment. I had just started in real estate. I was really excited. I'd gone to a training and I was pretty excited about the fact, okay, here we go. And I had taken a listing, and it was a home literally on my street. And I took the listing, I literally just knocked on the door of a for sale by owner, and I just asked this question: what would it take for you to list your home with me? And they looked at me. I was 22 years old, might I add. They looked at me and they said, "You know what? Come on in." And so I still this day can't even believe that I got the listing. I didn't know the people at all, and I still remember the guy sitting there with his beer in his hand, watching Monday Night Football, I think he was, and he's like, "Hey," and I'm like, "Hey, what's happening?" And we're walking around this 3-bedroom, 1-bath little bungalow cottage, kind of in the old area of Salt Lake City. And anyway, the next day I listed it, and I had this listing, so I was all pumped, I was all excited, like, and I put that home under contract really, really quick. And I remember walking out. I'm walking my dog, and as I'm out there, my neighbor directly across the street says, "Hey, how you doing?" And I said, "Hey, I'm doing great." Kind of walking on cloud 9, man. I had my first deal under contract, got my first listing. I'm like, I can do this. And he said, "Hey, can I talk to you?" And I said, "Sure. I'm really worried about you." And I'm all, "You are?" And I remember thinking to myself, "You are?" I'm like, I'm thinking things are going the right direction here. And he said, "I just got a question for you. What are you going to do when the rates go up?" And I'm all, "You mean interest rates? Like for houses?" "Yeah. Because when the rates go up, what are you going to do?" And he said, "I really think you need to consider doing something better," and I quote, "better with your life than selling real estate." He goes, because you're not going to be able to take care of your family. If rates go up, what are you going to do? And I have to tell you, at that moment, and here's the thing that's so crazy is he was so well-intentioned. He meant so well. He was actually trying to protect me. He cared for me. I mean, he was genuinely concerned about my well-being. And I remember when he said that, I went, oh my gosh, of course I'm sitting here pondering about this thing. And he tells me this whole story about what are you going to do, and when the rates go up, and what if the market changes, and I remember I was a little bit concerned. And I was concerned for probably a good, 3 or 4 days. And then I started asking a better question. And then I started looking for evidence that maybe it was all going to be okay. And so that's when I started realizing a couple of things that I think you may appreciate, no matter where you are. Because sometimes we'll get so concerned with what the market's doing, and we'll think, well, wait a second here. What if the market does change? What if rates continue to climb? What if they go to 8%? What if they even went to 9%? Well, what am I going to do? And will people still buy homes? And will I succeed in this business? And the answer is you can. But I just want to remind you that back when I was 22, 23 years old, I remember I started saying to myself, wait a second here. As sad as it is and disappointing as it is when you watch individuals get divorced, I realized, wait, when people get divorced, houses sell. Okay, that's actually kind of a good thing. And I started thinking, well, it's never good, of course, when someone dies, but that's another reason homes sell. Okay, death and divorce. I'm on the right path here, right? I'm thinking that's the reality, is that real estate starts to be sold. I started thinking, well, wait a second here. I'm a first-time home buyer, and I haven't even bought a home yet. I'm doing everything I can to try to buy a home. I don't care what the rates are. Okay, so first-time home buyers are always going to want to buy houses. Okay, well, believe it or not, I started knocking doors, of course, and I'd find people who had paid off their house, shockingly, and they wanted to buy another one. And I will never forget, during that time of uncertainty for myself, I made calls. I remember calling a gal, and she said, you're not going to believe it. How did you know we were moving? I said, well, I didn't. Well, my grandmother just passed away. I just inherited her home. We need to sell that. We have our home paid off, and it was in this area, this really rough area. I say rough. For Salt Lake City, rough. Let me just say, right? But rough, all right? And I remember they said, okay, we want to sell these 2 homes, and we want to pay off and buy the next one. And that one cold call during that time frame made me realize that people do pay off their houses. Estate sales and death occur. Divorce occurs. Okay, well, wait, what else? Oh, you mean people want, when it's a buyer's type of market, which we're starting to transition into, you mean people will want to buy an investment property? People will want to then calmly be able to go buy their dream home? And all of a sudden I started to realize that between death, divorce, job transfers, people paying off their homes, wanting to have investments, first-time home buyer, started to realize, wait a second here, where am I focusing? And if for you right now, if you look at what the media is trying to do, they're trying to say, oh my gosh, what's the market doing? Look at this inflation. Look at the price of gas. Look at what food's doing. And not that those aren't realities, but just ask yourself, where's your focus? What's your belief? Do you actually believe that homes are selling? And even go back to 2008 and 9, I think it was 9 when they did it, but in 2009 was interesting because they came out and they said, hey, guess what? We're going to pay anybody who hasn't bought a home in the last 3 years. We're going to pay you, does anybody remember the number, how much? $8,000, right, Veronica? We're going to pay you $8,000 to buy a house because it's so important that home ownership happens in America. So I just want to remind you that if you aren't doing business right now, because I'm meeting people left and right in California this entire last week and a half that I've been here that I'm totally on track. I'm killing it. Things are great. And they don't even know that there's anything going on that's wrong. Well, I find that interesting because here's what I know is that people still, no matter what the markets are, there's always people who need to sell and there are always people who need to buy. So no matter how strange or weird or volatile this market gets, there is always an opportunity to be able to help someone buy or sell a piece of property. But here's the challenge. the great challenge for all of us is that if we don't talk to people, nothing changes. And that's the real challenge, is that there's so many of us that we say, well, the market's this, the market's that. And so then we become this victim of the market. And it's a statement I've made for years, and that is, did you just get better? Let's just say, now say, over the last 13 years, did you really get better at what you do? Or was it just that the market got better? And that's a really powerful question right now to ask yourself. Well, I was doing so good. Yeah, so was everybody else. Shocking. So, did you get better? Or was it this market got better? And when you become so committed, if this makes sense, or so impacted by what the market is or isn't doing, that means there's a real challenge to how you're going about your business. It means that you're in the framework of either just simply waiting. These are three things you want to write down. I either have three choices. I can wait for business to happen. I will wait for people to call me. Now, when you've been in the business as long as someone like Kay or Blake, you might get the benefits, even in rough moments and rough markets, transitional markets like we're in, you might get the benefit of people calling you. You just might get that at times. But even then, I can promise you that when 08 and 9 happened, I watched people who were the prolific, like the agents of agents, the icons of the industry, completely go under and disappear because they were in the mindset that they had, quote, arrived, unquote. They were above calling people. They just simply showed up in their office and waited for people to call them. And those were the people in 08, 9, and 10, and 11 who absolutely got you-know-what handed to them. And that is the fact. So no matter where you are in this game, if you are playing the game right now of waiting for business, just like I heard when I was back behind here, I hear Brandon speaking about, the prospecting, is that if you're waiting for business to happen, you are going to have a major challenge. But if you don't wait for business, if you make calls to your sphere, your past clients, the people who are championing your cause, if you talk to, of course, the for sale by owners, the expired listings, if you want to go knock doors, talk to just listed, just sold, but make sure you're talking to people. So the first one, right, is wait. The second one is you can go out and buy a business. Now, of course, you can go out and buy business. You can buy leads. You can buy internet leads. You can buy other, from aggregators, from the boom towns to the Vulcan 7s to the whatever other ones that have recently come out. You're like, oh yeah, this is the best one. Well, you can go out and buy it. You can buy business. And if you have the bankroll to do that, and you want to take the risks of going out and buying all your business, then you can do that. Or the third, right, is what I jumped ahead to, which is you can go out and get it. And you can go knock doors, talk to people, visit with people, call your past clients, call your centers of influence, knock on their doors, knock on the doors of our for sale by owner, expired, it just listed, it just sold, and be known in your community. And so the problem is that I keep seeing is that agents keep going, I don't know about this market. Well, the market is the market. And the market will ebb and flow, and there will be cycles in that market, just like you're seeing people go through cycles in this market. You're watching companies maneuver and innovate and anticipate, and we have the same things that we're doing, which I'll talk about in a second. But just as you're moving through that, I just want you to recognize that this is kind of part of the norm. This is part of the process. This is part of your awakening. You realize, wait a second here. Okay, I got to get better. And I got to improve upon what I'm doing. And if I do that, then it doesn't matter what the market's doing, because people in any market, no matter what the case is, will always want to buy or sell real estate. And is it fair to say that it's moving a little more to what I would consider to be the buyer's market? Of course it is. You're seeing that, and that's okay. And has it been a seller's market, a raging seller's market for several years now, at least since COVID, when it was first, at least COVID kind of came about and we got all that craziness going on? The answer is, yeah, it really changed. In fairness, I have to tell you, I didn't anticipate what would happen in the last 2 years with real estate. I mean, it's unprecedented. It is the largest increase in home values in U.S. history over a 24-month period of time. It's unbelievable. Even when you talk to a client, they may demand that they want the 43% increase in the US, that's the US number, 43% increase over the last 2 years. And instead of getting 43, they might get 37. Like, just give perspective to what people's expectations are right now. Just want you to give perspective to the fact that when you're talking to people, when they demand such a high value, the reality is that if you were to tell anybody, if you were to make 37%, if you had to drop it by 5%, 37% over the last 2 years, would you be okay with that? If you would ask them 2 years ago, oh yeah, that's great. Yeah, but I want now 43 because I know it's possible, right? It's that I need more every minute. Your job is, right, to lead people through the path of what's realistic, what's the reality of today's market, what's going to be happening in today's market. Again, I go back to, do I believe values are going to radically go down? No. Do I believe there's going to be an adjustment in the upper end, anywhere between as much as 5% to possibly as much as 10 or 15? Yeah, I would expect that to happen. Do I think there'll be much movement in the first-time home buyer sections of the markets? Not much. Even if there's any adjustments, it might be nothing more than 5%. So the good news is that real estate didn't start the things that we're having happen. Now, if you're in the fantasy world of not thinking you're in a recession yet, that's okay, because on July 17th, when the GDP is announced, you'll then fully know you're in one. Because we already have 1 quarter of it, and they expect it to even be worse than it was the last quarter. And they'll announce that on the 17th of July. But the reality is, I think that we would be very naive to anticipate the fact that we are in a recession. When I was anticipating the things that we were dealing with, I even had many of my own senior leadership come and say, oh no, George, I was even talking to some individual and they were part of the Fed Reserve. I mean, they were second in command and they said, this won't last longer than 6 months. And I remember I laughed out loud. I said, that's great. Well, I'm going to anticipate that it's going to be 2 or 3 years. Now what's more, I find laughable, is that in the last 6 weeks, it's gone from, oh, this will just be a 6-month deal and we'll be all behind all this, to where, okay, this is now at least 2 or 3 years. And now you got people saying that the inflation issues, like the true blue inflation issues, because of all the things that happened to create it, the good and the bad of multiple politicians, from the Republicans, Democrats, whatever you want to blame it on, the combination of all the things that have happened over the last several years. It's interesting, people are saying it's going to be 10 years. Now, 10 years meaning that to correct the inflation issues will take a decade. So just look, that's not going to make any impact to you as an agent. It may impact the people you serve in their home values. It may impact affordability, but it doesn't impact you as an agent. It only impacts you if you don't talk to people. And remember that. So when we look at like this anticipation, this innovation, and we move through this, look, we've talked a lot about this. There's a lot of rumors out there. So I'm so appreciative there's so many of you here. But let me give you some perspectives, right? I'm gonna go around the horn of what we've done. I first want to start with you, just kind of give you a perspective of what we did in Utah. 8 weeks ago, I closed one of our largest flagship offices because the lease was up. Now, I hope that you can appreciate what I'm going to tell you. There was 10,000 square feet. Now, you may not think that's a lot, but let me just give you perspective. That's almost twice as amount, or maybe almost 2.5 times what's in just here in Ventura that we operate out of. Okay, just give you perspective. 10,000 people, 10,000 square feet, and at best on a given day, at best, we might, let me point out that, Jane, might get 10 people to walk into that office. That office cost this company $51,000 a month, not a day. Some say a day, a month. Day would even be really bad, but a month. $51,000 a month. Well, people thought I'd lost my mind because what we know today, right, where you see people doing some pretty aggressive things because people are like, oh my gosh, things are really changing. Well, I changed it because I had anticipated. I was watching everything. I was watching every number, every single, and because we have such a large footprint of business that we do as an organization, although, imagine this, I'll meet with an agent, right, and I'll talk to them, they'll say, Well, it doesn't seem like there's any changes for me. Yep, you keep prospecting, there won't be. But an agent who, let's just say they were doing 20 deals, and now they're only this year going to do 18 or 17, let's take 17 or 16 deals, they're going to go, oh, well, it doesn't seem that bad. It's not that big of a deal. Well, yeah, you, individually, an agent's business being off, let's just say 15, 20, or 30%, going from 20 deals to 17 or 16 deals, they're going to go, oh, okay, I need to work harder. Yes, but now take that across the body of 1,000 agents, which is what I get to look at, and all of a sudden, when you see that happening to all the agents, almost all of them, not every one of them, and all of a sudden you see 30% reductions. And so in California, here can be give you perspective, we're off by 26% to be exact, or 25 point something, but rounding up. I'm a realtor, I get to round up. That's what we always do. We're realtors, we round up, okay? Never round down, but 26%, right? In Utah, we're down by 13%. You may say, well, what's the big deal of that? Well, when you build such a big footprint, let me just give you perspective. That's 250 transactions different in a month. Well, that seems like a lot to me, just for the record. Maybe not to you. But to me, it seems like a lot. And, you know, it doesn't take much to figure out that if you kept on that same trajectory, you wouldn't have a company. Meaning that if you didn't change something. So starting with Utah, right, when everyone thought I was nuts and crazy, and they were so angry with me in Utah when I did what I did, because we had this office for like 8 years. I mean, it was, again, there was 100 agents, and 96 agents to be exact, that operated out of it. And we said, you know what, we're gonna roll it into our offices in Salt Lake, and we're going to create these landing spots and some different things that we were doing. And you know, 6 weeks later, now I've gotten some texts, I could read them to you, but people are saying, how did you know? How did you know? Well, how I knew is because, again, we have such a big footprint. So just know that, again, though, with everything that we're trying to do, we always try to anticipate. Because your job, and just something you might want to write down, but your number one job, I believe, as a friend, as a parent, as an agent, as a leader, number one is to protect. My job as a CEO is to protect you guys, to protect our environment, to protect our company, to protect the pathway economically and sustainability as we move through that. And just two other things I always add to that is, number two, it's right. I'm there to help and educate and train people. So if I look at the role of a parent, like all of you had a mother at one point, right? Your mother was there to protect you. Your mother was there to teach you. And then third, you would hope that, let's just stay on the mother track, your mother inspired you to hopefully live a better life than even hers, and inspire you to go do great things and to live an extraordinary life. Well, that's what you do for every best friend of yours, or for those you have stewardship and care for, is to protect them, to teach them, to educate them, and to inspire them to say, hey, you can go do more than what you're doing right now. You can make it. You're going to be okay. And that's what all great friends do. That's what all great relationships have in them, is there's a level of protection, education, and inspiration. And so you start looking, okay, what are the roles of me? Well, my role is, number one, is to protect. So when I sit there and say, well, anticipation is I'm constantly looking for the holes in our system, the holes within what we do. And I believe that's the same thing that you should be doing in your own life, and asking yourself, okay, how do I protect my family? Right? How do I protect my future? How do I protect my retirement? How do I protect the others that I love around me? I think it's a really important stewardship that every single one of us has. I don't care, you know, what our lot in life is and where we come from. It's an important, you know, stewardship that we each have. So in Utah, we did the same thing with a smaller little office, and in fairness, things are pretty calm today in Utah, and people say, well, wait, how did you know how to do all that? And why did you? Because I anticipated. And then we innovated and said, okay, what's another way we could do what we all do together? What's another way that would if we anticipate and we innovate, well, what inventions can we create? And that was very, very important. Well, so now you come over to California. Well, we've already made some of those changes, and a couple of those are, I just want to kind of go around the entire thing. I want to, there's no question you can't ask me. There's nothing I won't tell you. There's nothing that you can't understand. Because what I do know is that people are already calling and going, hey, did you hear? Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, how does that impact the fact of you prospecting today? Nothing, but that's okay, you can talk about it. It doesn't impact you at all, really, so much of what I want to tell you. But it always gives people something to talk about. And yet they forget the fact what their actual role and responsibility is every day, and that is to talk with people, not gossip about people, not gossip about the company. Go and make a difference in the lives of the people that you serve, by the people you communicate with and talk to. But let's just start with Santa Clarita. In Santa Clarita, we cut the footprint of the office in half, similar thing. 7,500 square feet. 6 people a day walked into it. And then I get an agent who goes, yes, but I deserve this office. But you never come into that office. Yes, but my production says I should have the office. But you never use the office. But I want the office. You can't have the office. But I'm going to use it now. And when you do, just let us know. And we'll have an office for you. Because we're going to have, like they have now, they have 3 offices there that they can rotate in. And Kathleen Bruno's up there with, she's kind of the flagship agent up there in Santa Clarita and doing her thing. And so she has, and she is one who comes in every single day. So we shrunk the footprint down to half. Right? Other things we did up there is we said, why do we have an office for All Valley Escrow up there? And I know that everyone says, well, I have to have the office close by. You don't have to have escrow close by anywhere. I mean, as much as I know it's hard to believe, but Alexander Graham Bell invented something. You know what he invented? A phone. And he invented a phone that you can call the escrow officer and ask them a question, or their team. And so anyway, we shrunk the footprint there and said, hey, let's bring all of our All Valley people, let's bring them over in to see me. And so we did that too. And that was a really wise decision, right? And then you start moving around. I could go and I sat down with Kay and said, hey Kay, what are your thoughts about making some changes in Santa Paula? And to her credit, bless her heart, because she's run a few different companies, she said, hey, you know what? I'd be okay if you needed to do, I understand we need a call come into Ventura. But I also realize it's really important. And she is a legacy player, and others in that office are in Santa Paula. So we've said, look, what are we going to do to kind of shrink that little bit of that footprint and protect her property management? Maybe throw up a wall and have a few conference rooms, and so that Judy Ahaka and others can go in there and that place to work. And so we're shrinking that a little bit and changing the model there. And you say, well, wait, hold on, you're changing things. Yeah, that's the normal cycle of business. We're going to change a few things because my job is to protect every one of you, to make sure we're doing the right stuff. Hollywood Beach, we thought we were actually going to close it, just so you know, that was our anticipation. But you know what? The good news is, between Karen Campbell and a few others that said, hey, you know what? We really want this thing. Okay, well, let's work something out that's different, that's fair for everybody, because it's not making a lot of sense right now economically. And so we've changed some things. And we've made it to where we're going to make it what's called a team office. Team offices is that we don't have the big banner sign like we do out here in Ventura, and we change a few things like that so that we can actually reduce some costs with Century 21, because there's a different model, whether it's a team office versus it's a full-fledged office, and it makes it to where, again, it makes a lot of sense with what we're doing. Then you jump over to Westlake. We've reduced a little bit of staff, but we realize that's going to be what it is. We're having Charlene, as you guys all know Charlene, or if you don't, you should. That would be an important person to know in your life. But Charlene and Fred, by the way, Fred, his artist, is still up there, and he's part of your compliance team. And so Charlene and John Seid are spending a ton of time now where we've reduced our payroll in Westlake. And he's like, well, wait, it's not fair. I never said it was fair, nor is it fun. Those are some of the hardest decisions when you sit there and say, hey, we're going to make some changes there. And as we did that, we've had to calm some storms there. You may have gotten wind of it, and it is tough when you have to make some employment changes like that. Really tough, and it's heartbreaking at times, but it is what needs to be done, again, to protect the whole of the company. And then you come over the hill. One of the things we're looking at doing in Camarillo, and we're anxiously engaged in doing that, is we can't stand the space that we're in. It may be the fact that we can't stand all of our friends that are there, which are the termites. I don't know. I mean, it could be, all the other reasons that we don't like it, and there's a lot of them. The safety and the well-being of the people in the building, and the fact that we can't leave our door unlocked. I mean, there's a lot of problems that go on right where we are in Camarillo. And so we're looking at different space, new space, And we are excited about that. So you're going to see some changes there. And again, just a similar thing, 10,000 square feet are there. Costs us nearly $30,000 a month when you include everything. And we are, I don't know, Karen, about 5 or 6 people at best a day can walk in there. Does that push it? 7 for 7,000. They get 1,200 square feet per person when they walk in. I mean, it's amazing.
She's rounding up.
Exactly. So, guys, look, and people, and I had a manager in Utah. You know, I was sitting with him in our conference room, the boardroom. He's like, slams his hand on, COVID did this. I said, that's my point. Is that everyone realized they can do a lot what they do at home, and they enjoy doing it at home, and I'm okay with that. Like, because of technology, because of different things that we're doing. And I get that, and that's okay. I'm not mad that you know, I do know this, that the more we unify, the more that we're together, that the more business seems to be done. People say, well, there's more distraction. Yes, but man, there's a synergy when people are prospecting together. There's a synergy when, you know, a group of agents go out and knock some doors together. There's a synergy that helps people, you know, stay on the right path and do some great things when they're all together. And that's really important, I think, for not only this group and for others, that look, as much as we want to say we're a lone ranger and we do all of what we do and we do it all alone, you know, it's not the reality, right? I mean, just picture this. Picture the cells of your body. If you have just one cell, it cannot survive effectively, but it has to also, yes, it has to keep its shape. You know, the hope is, right, it doesn't have cancer or something that alters it, but imagine just looking under the microscope and all those cells that are bouncing around each other is the same thing that we as human beings need. Just like the cells of our body, you need, yes, to hold your shape, to hold your strength, to hold your center. But at the same time, you're amongst a group of people, and that you build and you grow and you survive and you thrive together. And that's for me, at least visually, the metaphor I always have is that, yeah, I want to be able to hold my own. But boy, I do know that I need the others around me to lift me up. Or maybe that's the moment I'm lifting someone else up. And I hope that that's what we're always doing. So, okay, that's Camarillo. And then we go to Oxnard. This isn't, I mean, it's out there so much right now, I just want to put it out there, but the lease is up in Oxnard. And the lease is up at the end of September, just so you're aware. Well, the end of September, we want to do some things where we bring Ventura and we bring Oxnard together. We expect that that's going to be the reality. And we are excited about that. We're excited about bringing those people together. And we're excited about what that looks like. In the midst of all of that, people, I mean, Wynn was just asking me about Channel Islands, and look, Channel Islands lease is up August of next year. Do I believe that we're going to, at minimum, shrink the footprint of Channel Islands? For sure. Because again, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, great, we'll round up to 7 again. 7 people go in there for about 5,000 square feet. That doesn't work. That model doesn't work anymore for us. And it doesn't work for any company. And so we have to just be really wise as to how we use that square footage so that one, we can keep our structures and our splits the way we want to, because we never want to change those on you. And I mean that. I've never have, never expect to. So I'm not sitting here going, oh, hey, well, if we want to do it, we're going to charge everybody more. Well, no, let's look at how we're using our space. Right? And then Ventura will remain the same. We've even talked about possibly even expanding in this building and expanding our footprint here so that we can all be unified together. Now, some of those things that are, people have been like, oh my gosh, what does that look like? And part of that is that, you know, we've been so great. We have so much help and grace with Karen Campbell here and Amelia here. But one of the things I know is, you know, well, one, Karen has, you know, how long have you been in this business again? 33? 33? You know that she runs an incredible business and does an incredible amount of business, and she has one of the best hearts that I know and one of the most caring people that I know. You know, and I feel like she's someone who always looks after me even when I show up here. She's the gal I always call, like, okay, where should I send my dry cleaning? Okay, you know, who should clean my house? Yeah, I mean, she's like my mother. She takes care of me when I'm here in California. That's the most honorable statement I can make, by the way, because I've had a lot of amazing mothers. I say that in my life because I've, you know, found one that I didn't know I had, and then I've had 2 others in my life that have passed away already. But anyway, I say that to you, that Karen, I know, is obviously working closely with Brandon and Armani in relationship to Camarillo, but I know that as we shrink that footprint, do some things there, that eventually she'll move back into full-time sales, which we're so grateful for all that you do. But there'll be a time, that'll be a soft transition, just when it's at the right moments and times, we'll look at doing that. And then in regards to Amelia, which I'm so excited, because for good gravy, I don't know how long, well over a year and a half, she's talked about the fact of selling real estate and going and selling real estate and wanting to build her own team. And in fairness, let's just be candid here, watches how much money all of you make and realizes, wait a second here, I want to do some of that. And so I think that there'll be, a very slow go of transition for Amelia as she moves into selling more real estate. I hope that you would help champion her cause, because she's such I almost want to say a lifer of Everest, and I adore her and love her and care for her so much. And I'm so excited for her, because when you sit down with someone who's brought to tears and sharing their dream of what they believe they're capable of and what they want to do, and that part of that is rising within the ranks of selling an immense amount of real estate, and to leading a team, and to be able to do that, and then still to support the company and to help build the company, to recruit for the company, and all the roles that she wants to play, it's pretty awesome. So one, thank you, Amelia, as we move through all that, and Karen, you guys are awesome. And then as we move that, and then specifically for Ventura, but over kind of seeing most what I would consider the West County, of course, is Brandon Ramey and Armani. Armani, I always mess up your last name, so I'll have you say it.
Amesqua.
Yeah, see?
It's really hard.
Just like
Lindsay always
Monica.
makes fun of
Think
me.
of me
She's
now
like,
is...
you are the worst bilingual human being on earth. And I'm like, so I'm so bad at it, but I apologize.
No,
but
no
I'm so
worries.
grateful for these gentlemen and what they do and the support that they give to you guys and to the company. But just know, you're going to see some of those transitions. Don't be alarmed. Like, we're moving from a place of strength as we move and through these different moments in our lives. And as we move through these moments, we're going to do well. And I think I forgot one office, which is Wood Ranch up there in the Simi area. There's 4 years left on that lease. If you don't know Anissa and Charlene have been running that, but Anissa is in that space where she kind of needs to be let free to run that office, and that's going to give some real flexibility and some bandwidth for Charlene to be able to share her time between specifically those two offices. You may ask, okay, now where's John's site going to be? It's not that John won't be here ever, but he will make his priority on the East County also, in the sense of what he's doing and making sure that as we've reduced our employee count there, that making sure that those things are taken care of. And then in fairness, as you guys know, I just even told Gretchen and Sam yesterday on a phone call, I said, hey, I want to make sure I really like where I am. Yeah, I know it's far away from the airport that I travel in and out of, but man, I love being in Ventura. So for me, I just told him I'm extending everything we're doing. My son's actually not going to Ventura College anymore. That was a rough experience for him from the standpoint of just everything being online and the isolation. And so he's back going to the University of Utah. Or not back, going to be going to the University of Utah, but back in Utah. And my daughter just graduated. Amelia's wearing the colors of UCLA. And my daughter just graduated from UCLA, which is hard to believe that 4 years have gone by and she's doing her thing. So, but just know that I'll be here a bunch more. And the thing that's interesting is that the more calm that things have gotten across the enterprise, it's been fun to be really, really present. I think people have been shocked for whatever it's worth. I've been in California for a week and a half. This is my 10th day. I haven't gone home. Now, in the midst of that, my daughter from UCLA, not at UCLA, got COVID. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going home. And I was supposed to go home for the holiday, and I didn't. So I sacrificed, drove up the coast, went and played Pebble Beach, and came
Poor
back.
thing.
I sacrificed.
Oh, God,
I sacrificed my family for a little light golf. So anyway, but it was a little odd though to be alone the entire time. But you know, I just because in 29 years I've always been with Jennifer, that was a little odd. But in fact, we were driving down the 101. I was watching fireworks, and I was on the phone with her, and I said, "This is so weird that I'm driving down the 101 and I'm watching fireworks and I'm on the phone with you." And anyway, but she's doing great, and the family's doing great, and my daughter's out of quarantine and doing everything. And tonight I'm going home, so I'm excited to get back home tonight. But Guys, just don't be alarmed by that stuff. And if I could, like, some of you don't have this. Sometimes people think, I'll have people come to me and they'll say, I'm so scared of George. And I'll hear that, and I'm like, okay, well, in 8th grade, I did break the kid's jaw. That was the last fight, Brandon, that I got in, just for the record. But I have to tell you, I might have a loud voice, but I have a very weak bite. I care so much for each one of you, and although I may not know every one of you individually to the depth that I wish I could, and with the size of the organization, I don't, but just know I literally am always there. I mean, you know, today, walking or driving here, I was on the call with a new licensee who was really struggling. And I say really struggling. I found out that they were in a space of like the suicide level, like meaning like really struggling. And I got a call from their mother and said, would you be willing to reach out to this young man? And I said, you bet, let's do it. So just know, I've asked this question. I don't know why I care. I just do. I wish I could tell you and I could say, well, but I could say I feel like that's what's been instilled in me. I feel like it's, you know, from my Creator, from God. But I love people and I love to care for them, and I hate to see them suffer, and I hate to see them struggle. And if there's anything I've tried to, probably haven't invested in as much real estate in my life that I probably could. I mean, it's not probably more than 15 or 20 properties in my lifetime. But I certainly can say that I've dedicated my life to helping people, and I've invested in myself to hopefully be a tool for people to help elevate their life, and that's what I've tried to always do. So I just wanted to give you my phone number. You are welcome to text me if you need something, or if something's not making sense, or the rumorville is bigger than you feel like you can handle, or you're like, what's going on? I heard blank. Just ask me. There's nothing I won't tell any of you. If you want to know, you know, and I'll just give you perspective. Yeah, we put money back into the company last month. And I went, okay, $308,000 is what I wrote a check into the company last week, or a week and a half ago. And I'm all, how long can I do that? Okay, well, I better change a few things, which I already knew we were changing. So here's the thing. You have so much infrastructure and strength. There's all these different companies that supply the strength of what we all do together. There's not a risk of whether Everest is going to, well, I guess there's always risks for everything, but I'm not even of the notion for a second that Everest doesn't exist and that we aren't all doing what we do together. Do we evolve? Do we change a little bit of the models? Is that the cycle of business? Is that just normal every day? And I'm really trying to speak to you as if you are truly a business person, not a crazy psycho agent who is like a drunk cat that you're trying to herd into a location, right? Like that you're literally a business person who's thinking like, okay, we are all running a business and you are the CEO of your own life and your own business. And I'm trying to be as transparent and honest, and what I would hope is that you would say, okay, that makes sense. And if I have any question, well, I know I could call him. And if I'm concerned or I'm worried or like, well, wait, someone said or I'm seeing, then just ask. Just ask. There's nothing I wouldn't tell you. You want to know the strength of the company. You want to know where we're off. We want to know where our struggles are. You want to know where we're killing it and we're doing great. And guys, I just echo to you that my gratitude when you support Inspiro and you support All Valley Escrow and the things that Kendall does. But I do know who you are, right? But and all these great loan officers and escrow officers, the impact in today's market of your support of them is more than I could ever tell you of gratitude, because it's what employs people. It's what makes us be able to have the full service things that we do instead of just being let's just be candid here, the next EXP, like in Utah. I was just talking to one. There's one broker for 600 people, no offices, no support staff. You get to go into the metaverse with a little guy bouncing through the computer and hoping you find your answer. Yeah, but you can get downline. Okay, well, if you want to go into multi-level marketing, Utah is the king of that, by the way, if you haven't realized that. I mean, Utah is the king of MLMs and network marketing, okay? I can point you in the right direction for any MLM that you'd really like to be a part of, but if you're committed to selling a hell of a lot of real estate, then get serious about how you're operating. Like, you know, recognize that you have a clear pathway to figuring out how to sell real estate. You have some amazing examples like Kay and Karen and Blake and others that have been in this business for multiple decades that have seen the worst of the markets. This isn't even remotely near the worst of a market. These guys could all attest to that. But it also means that there has to be adjustments in the cycles of business. And because some of you have never seen changes, because for 13 straight years it's just been a steady increase, then you have to recognize that there'll be strain. So before I forget, here's my phone number for those of you who want it.
Yeah.
Right? And you can text me, by the way, anytime. If I am up and I'm doing my thing, my phone's on. People always, I still remember I had an agent or an employee who quit in California because I text them at like 1 in the morning. And you say, well, why would you text someone at 1 in the morning? Well, first of all, I'd be like, well, who keeps their phone on all night? But maybe you do, so I won't text you at 1 in the morning. But you are welcome to text me any time of the day. So here you go. Or call me. If I'm up and I can do something with it, I'll help. If it's not, I turn my phone off. All right, and I have it on silent, except for my emergency numbers of my family that will ring through. That's how I got it set up. So don't ever worry about the time of the day, the time of the night, whatever's going on. You thinking about something, you're concerned about something, you can call, voicemail, text, whatever you want. Here you go. 801-712-2626. 801-712-2626. And some of you don't have John Syatt's number, and you should have it if you don't have it. It's like one of the only numbers I remember. It's because I know him. I know him. I've known him long enough before we didn't know numbers. All right, John Syatt, and Syatt, C-I-E-T, like diet, right? With a C, and then 801-580-8425. Guys, you should have those numbers in your phone. If you need something, if something's like, I'm feeling like it's not making sense to me, or I'm ticked off about something, or why'd you do that? Just call me. I'll answer why. As I said yesterday to the group in Westlake, I did not wake up in the mornings and go, okay, this is the day. I am gonna screw up everyone's life, and I have figured out how to do it. I don't wake up with the idea of how I'm gonna screw up your life. I'm waking up every morning saying, how can I help you in your life, and how can I support, how can I help, and how can I do the things you do? All right? So, in closing, which, hey, I was pretty good yesterday when I said in closing. Was I not pretty decent?
Okay, I'm counting.
I say in closing. I said this story yesterday, it reminded me. Look, everything is about having a great vision. And I had a dear friend and employee of the company yesterday say, I really don't have clear, I just don't see the things that you see. And I said, well, can I share a story with you? And I do believe that all leaders have to have some level of vision, right? If I asked you to close your eyes and I said, now look at your front door, see your front door, see the color of your front door. People will say, well, I'm not really visionary. Everyone's visionary. You close your eyes, you can see your front door and the color of it. So if you can see with your eyes closed, well, then you have vision. But again, a job of a great leader, right, is to have a great vision, to recast that vision. Like, where are we going? I still believe, like, this is the greatest gathering of real estate professionals the world has ever seen. Look at what we all do together. It's extraordinary. The lives that are impacted, the people that we help, the lives that people we serve, the differences that we make, the way in which we give back. Keep doing that. Look for ways to serve. Look for ways to give. Right? Love one another. Forgive one another. Like, you may say, whoa, is this a church talk? No, it's not. It's a life talk. Don't hold on to grievances. There's no justifiable anywhere level of anything that you could resentments. Nothing is justifiable. Forgive. Be free of all of that stuff. So have the vision to say, what are the impacts of whatever I hold on to, whatever I do? And as I was talking to this gal yesterday, I said, well, let me tell you a story. I said I played basketball. I was kind of I guess you could say a jock in high school and doing my thing and playing athlete or whatever, and with my 12-inch vertical, which is about what it was, by the way. And I was the slowest guy on the basketball team, but I was big, so I was able to muscle, young guys that were thin and raily when I was younger. And so we're playing ball, and I had this friend who his name was Troy Thompson.
Oh, Troy Thompson? Oh.
Troy Thompson. You don't know Troy Thompson.
Oh no, it sounds like from a movie.
Oh, it's not a movie. All right. I was gonna say, if you know Troy, I'm impressed. All right, but Troy's like 6'6", man. He was a monster tall, but he loved chess, and he would always bait me with this idea, Caleb, come play chess. I'm like, I am not going into the chess club to play chess. And he said, and then he became the chess captain, and he said, I don't think you could beat me. Well, first of all, if you say things like that, Randy, then I'm like, okay. And now, weirdly, people don't know this, but my father taught me how to play chess when I was a young man, probably 7 or 8 years old, and I used to play a lot of online chess. I am talking like the speed chess that you play in 2-3 minutes, and you're clicking back and forth or hitting the button like you're watching the movie Bobby Fischer. I mean, I'm really into chess. Most people don't know that. So I'm telling this story to this gal yesterday, and I said, well, just give perspective, I do have vision. And I said, so I walked into this chess club, there's all these individuals playing chess, and they said, okay, and I said, you know what, I will join the chess club if I lose. And of course, they then put the chess champion against me, which was Troy Thompson. And Troy and I played. And I, of course, would tell you a story, I annihilated him. And I remember, as I beat him, I flipped his king. Of course, let's make sure I'm clear here. I'm 16. Just one point this out. I flipped his king. I said, I stood up, don't ever ask me to be here again. You lose, and walked out. And I know that wasn't my best moment, but the moment taught me one thing. Is the interesting thing about chess is it has lots of moving pieces. And the only way that you can be really, really good at chess is you have to anticipate whatever you believe your opponent's going to do and all the different things they could do. And for me, chess has been a really big indicator of the fact that I have always, since the day I think I was born, have always had a vision of how people will feel if I do this, a vision of, well, what if we do this? What will be the outcome of that? And I can just tell you that vision has been one of the great supporting roles of the building of Everest and what we all do together. So I would just tell you that I would ask you that at this point you have trusted to be with me, by my side, by all that we all do together, all the leaders within this organization, the agents who you rub shoulders with. I would just hope that you would continue to allow me to lead you, to have enough vision to protect the company, to do the things that may seem difficult for a moment, but just know they're not done recklessly. They're not done carelessly. They're not done in moments of weakness. They're done because we know that together, if we do the right things together, that when we move from a place of strength, even when we say, let's add money to the company and say, oh my gosh, well, what would make you think that we've had the same rise over the last 2 years? The good news is we've been really wise. We've set aside hundreds of thousands of dollars to make sure that when this happens, we can move from a place of strength. So when people, oh my gosh, they're closing this. Oh, what's going on? I mean, it's going on. Cycles of business. And this is what I would tell you. I've been saying this to everybody. This is my last statement, Kendall. I'm done. Here we go. You should be afraid of the companies that are not making shifts and changes in today's market. You should be going, what fantasy are they living under to act like there is not a single thing wrong? The classic, by the way, was the Keller Williams in Utah. We sent and closed an office in Centerville. What do they start doing? While others are closing things, we're expanding. It's always easy to expand. And they opened a 10,000 square foot office building in the start of at least a 2 or 3 year recession, because their ego guided them instead of their wisdom and their knowledge or their vision of what the future looks like. And when you start running things, not only your own business or our business that we all have together, because what is Everest? It's us. It's not brick and mortar. It's us. We're in the service industry. It's us. It's people. It's individuals. That's who we are. That's what comprises Everest. It's not dot loop. That loop's a technology, right? It's not the paper on the pillar in the middle of this room. It's not even these cubicles. That's not us. People know us not by dot loop or the fancy little gather the best and grow. It's not our logos. It's not our slogans. It's us as individuals that they know. So just remember the stewardship that you have and responsibilities that you have. And I just would ask that as you move through moments of change and evolution and refinement, as we do this together, just know that it's all okay. It's part of the deal. And we've already done all that, and yeah, it was chaotic for a moment in Utah. It's all calm now. That's why I can be here for as long as I've been able to do, because it is calm. And we're going to create even a calmer situation here with the right footprints, the right blueprints, the right configurations in regards to our model for West County, East County, and North LA. And we're going to build and continue to build and grow together. I promise that. And I can just tell you, people keep, for 6.5 years, Blake, it's been 6.5 years we've been working together, man. And for the day I've walked in, they're doing this so they can sell that. And they're doing this so that, we're not selling. Hell, if I was going to sell, I would have sold a long time ago, right? I'm 51. I got a lot of years left to what I want to do and continue to do what we all do together. So whatever rumors you may believe, I've given you my number. Just ask. Hey, I heard someone said they're doing. Really? I'd like to know what we're doing. I didn't know we were doing that. I mean, it's fascinating to me what people tell me we're doing, and I didn't know we were doing it. They're selling. We are? I didn't know we were. I hadn't signed an NDA with anybody. Were we planning on doing that? I don't have any NDAs with signed with anybody else. I mean, do you think in today's world market right now, people are going, oh yeah, this is the perfect time to buy a company in the middle of a recession? No. So like put your like thinking together. Like that's ridiculous. So when people start saying these nonsense things, be a defender of where we're going. Because we will move with certainty, we will move with purpose, we will create the right mindsets, we will build the right skill sets, and we will create disciplines that make it no matter what the market's doing. Whether it's going up, whether it's going down, whether it's transitioning, whether it's flat, we will win the game of selling real estate together, united together. So guys, love you guys. So good to be with you. I'll be here for a little bit if you want to chat, but have an extraordinary rest of the week, and I'll see you here in about a week. That'll be okay. If there's any questions you have, I'm here to ask. You're welcome to ask, or if you think it's appropriate on a group setting, you're welcome to ask it out loud. But other than that, I'll be here if you have anything else.
Can I ask you a question? Of course.
Okay, guys, go for it. Make it happen. Yeah. Good. Yeah, it's been quite a little.
We're gonna knock on it. Yes.
It's getting better.
That's perfect. Yeah.
Okay.
No. It's me.